Chapter 2146. Little brother, you play so well. The system felt that if it had a face, it would definitely cover its face, not wanting to tell others that this was its host. It didn't recognize such a shameful appearance. I want to listen to more. Tang quickly picked a song she liked. While the system was stunned, the little boy could actually play it in an instant. This little boy was indeed not simple. TSK, he was indeed the host's big cutie. No matter what he became, he couldn't escape when he met the host. He would find whatever she wanted, even if it was stars. Sister, you should do your homework. Tang Ran interrupted all of this and pulled Tang's sleeve. You haven't finished your homework. If the teacher finds out, you'll be punished. Do you know how to do those questions? In the past few months, Tangwa had been teaching Tang Ran her lessons. With Tang Ran's IQ, she had already learned most of it. She believed that Tang Ran knew how to do it. When Tang Ran heard Tangwa's words, she blinked her beautiful eyes and nodded. I already know how to do those questions. Then show me how to do it. Tang Ran was a little puzzled. Tangwa continued, if you don't do it, how will I know that you know how to do it? Just write it in my workbook. Sister, do you not want to do your homework? Tang Ran's expression was conflicted. It's almost the final exam. Sister, if you don't do your homework, what if you don't do well? I already know how to do those questions. Tang Ran was a little skeptical. She didn't have much homework in kindergarten, but the problem was that she had already helped her sister with her homework for several months. Although it wasn't much, just 1 page. She was still a little confused and didn't quite understand. Tangwa added fuel to the fire. I'm so tired from cooking today. I don't want to do my homework. If I don't do my homework, I'll definitely be scolded if the teacher catches me tomorrow. Then I'll help you. Tang Ran turned and went back. She took out Tangwa's workbook and silently calculated the questions. There were only a few math questions, and the language questions were just some copying and sentence formation. There weren't many questions for 1st and 2nd grade. Little brother, play another song for me. Hearing Tangwa's voice, Tang Ran looked up and glanced at her sister, who was sitting by the window, smiling and flirting with the young man opposite her. She felt extremely conflicted. His sister didn't seem to like studying. He would definitely be scolded if he did poorly in the final exam. What if he couldn't get into a university and couldn't find a job? It was true that her elder sister had to cook every day and was very tired. She also had to urge her to study. She liked to read, but her sister didn't seem to like it. If she forced her sister to do these things, she would definitely be unhappy. Tangwa never thought that Tang Ran was already worried about her future. Tang Ran was precocious and had a high IQ. She was already considered a genius, but no one had noticed it yet. Therefore, they were much smarter than ordinary children. She did her homework while thinking about the future. In the end, she came to a conclusion that if her sister couldn't find a job in the future, she would support her. Thinking of a solution, Tang Ran smiled happily and wrote faster and faster. In a short while, she finished Tang's homework. The system was speechless. Host, are you bullying your own sister? I'm grooming her so that she can skip a grade. Also, my handwriting is too different from a child's. The teacher won't suspect anything if Rand does her homework. System. Are you lying to a puppy? Don't you know how to imitate? I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down, chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2147. Now, wasn't Tang's handwriting in class gradually imitating Tang Ran's handwriting? She was just too lazy and didn't want to do it. She was too naughty. Have you checked what I asked you to check? I've checked. That little boy is called Shangjin. He has been autistic since he was young, and is also a genius. He has a unique understanding of music and has already acknowledged a famous pianist as his teacher. So it was already good that he could play the song you wanted to hear and nod to you. The system silently thought that there really wasn't another little boy like Shangjin. Which school is he currently in? An autistic school that specializes in treating autism. After my observation, it doesn't seem to be of much use. The system was a little depressed. He had walked around that place twice and felt that it was too depressing. All the children had problems. Why did they have to gather together? Could it really be cured in such an environment? The system was still thinking about something when Tangwa leaned against the window again. When the song ended, she shouted, "Little brother, the song you played was really nice. You're so good-looking, your grades must be good too, right? I really want to go to school with you and be in the same class. It must be very interesting." System, is this even possible? Was this operation really possible? If it was possible, he would choose to explode on the spot. He suspected that the guy opposite him had experienced the beauty of the host's warmth and simply closed himself off. Damn. He wasn't pitiful at all. He was obviously very cunning. As long as he agreed to be in the same class as Tangwa and still go to school, he could basically be sure that the other party must have cursed him. No matter what illness he had, he would have to do as the host said. Then he would wait and see. "Sister, the homework is done." Tang Ran handed the homework to Tangwa and glanced at the little brother opposite her who hadn't spoken. Her sister seemed to be very interested in him. Why did she feel that her sister was trying to trick him into going to school with her? The next morning, a new student transferred to Tangwa's class. "This new student, please introduce yourself." Shang Jin stood on the podium. Outside the classroom was a young couple who nodded encouragingly at her with tears in their eyes. God knows how excited they were when their son told them that he wanted to come to a certain class. In all these years, the number of times he had spoken was few and far between. Shang Jin's eyes fell on Tangwa. Finally, she took a piece of chalk and wrote her name on the blackboard. Shang Jin. Then, "Shang Jin, please sit in that empty seat." The teacher obviously knew about Shang Jin's situation, so he didn't force her. Shang Jin's parents were not simple. They even donated a teaching building to their school so that they could be more tolerant of Shang Jin. Shang Jin didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on Tangwa. She pursed her lips and seemed to want to say something but couldn't. "Teacher, this new student must want to sit next to me. Why don't you help me change the seat? I'll take good care of the new student." Tangwa raised her hand. Her proactive look made the system feel incredulous. Was this his host? But that guy must be the host's cutie. She actually came to school. Awesome, his great host. Of course, for a student who donated a teaching building to their school, she still had the right to do so. However, he had to ask Shang Jin first. "Shang Jin, classmate, would you like to sit next to Tangwa, classmate?" He wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down, chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2148. Shang Jin didn't say anything and only nodded his head slightly. The young couple standing at the door looked at Tangwa differently. They already thought that she was pretty, and now that they took a closer look, she was indeed pretty and cute. Moreover, their precious son didn't reject her, which meant that he still wanted to be friends with her. Their son was willing to interact with people, and that was a good start. Shang Jin sat beside Tangwa, as he wished, and Tangwa was in a good mood. "Little brother, you really came?" Shang Jin glanced at her from the corner of his eyes, but couldn't tell what her expression was. "I'm very happy to be able to attend class with you. I really didn't expect that you would be able to attend class and be my desk mate." Hearing this, Shang Jin's lips curled up slightly. "Shall we go home together after schools?" Shang Jin paused for a moment before nodding his head. His fists were clenched tightly, clearly not used to this environment. "Don't be afraid. I will protect you." Hearing this sweet voice, Shang Jin's heart relaxed. That little girl said that she would protect him, and it was like a warm breeze that made him feel less uncomfortable. System. I'm kneeling down in front of the host. How could this little boy be coaxed? Jin seems to be able to adapt. Standing outside the classroom, they were worried about Shang Jin's parents. Seeing that Shang Jin sat calmly in his seat and the cute little girl beside him seemed to be saying something to him, and he would occasionally nod his head, the two of them were overjoyed. "Then I'm much more relieved." Shang Jin's mother smiled. Although Jin has finished all his middle school lessons, he should be a few years older. But if Jin can return to normal, I'd rather he be an ordinary child. It's okay even if he's a little stupid. Don't worry, Jin will get better and better. Hasn't he been talking to us occasionally recently? Jin's father smiled helplessly. Although Jin had asked them to help him transfer schools, they were already very happy. This was indeed a good start. The two of them stood outside for half of the class. When they saw that Jin had integrated well, at least with the beautiful little girl who sat next to him, they felt relieved and left. Tang was not very serious in class. She had made up her mind that she must be more ordinary in this world. Jin was a genius, and Tang Ran was also a genius. There were already two geniuses, so she should just be an ordinary person. Why should she attract so much attention? Therefore, from now on, she would perform average in every test so that no one would be able to find fault with her. She also felt that she wouldn't be able to improve much, so gradually, the teachers would ignore her. During class, she didn't play any tricks. She was, after all, an adult. It wasn't very good for her to do little things and affect her classmates. Although she wanted to be more ordinary, she didn't want to be caught by the teacher and criticized. A week after Jin came to this class, there was a small test in the class. This time, Jin scored full marks and won the admiration of her classmates and the praise of the teacher. He didn't care about this. He had studied these subjects before, and getting full marks wasn't something to be proud of. Now he was sitting in his seat, frowning as he read a test paper. The score on the test paper was 80 points. For a first-year question, 80 points was really bad. Little brother, is there a problem with the test paper? It was after class, and Tangwa was eating snacks. She wanted to talk about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life. Find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2149. Tangwa passed a lollipop to Jin, but Jin did not take it. Tangwa peeled off the wrapper of the lollipop and brought it to his mouth. Jin looked at the fair, chubby little hand holding the lollipop in front of him. He hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he opened his mouth and bit the lollipop. The sweet taste filled his mouth, making his brows relax. Especially when he saw the little girl in front of him smiling at him and then looking at the 80 marks on the test paper, he did not feel angry anymore. I've already tried my best. Tangwa said innocently, some people are geniuses and geniuses can get full marks, but some people are very mediocre and no matter how hard they work, they can only get 80 marks. Instead of working hard for nothing, it's better to spend this effort on other things. Jin kept listening to Tangwa's words, looking straight at her, as if waiting for her to say what she wanted to spend the rest of her effort on. After class, eating some snacks appropriately will make your mood better. Jin frowned, so she spent the rest of her effort on snacks? Giving half of the snacks to little brother is also a good choice. Eating alone is not as enjoyable as eating with two people. Jin's brows relaxed, seeing her so happy. He finally gave up on the idea and gave the few questions that he just chose to Tangwa. He took out a book, not a primary school book, not a middle school book, but a high school book. The little boy, biting a lollipop, looked indifferent as he flipped through the book. These two looked completely incompatible. System. Host, don't you feel ashamed? Not only are you pretending to be young, but you're also lying to little boys. I think you have a long way to go. But my little brother seems to like it a lot. He doesn't plan to help me with the tutoring anymore. System. Maybe he thinks you're incurable? Do you think he might think that? The system's voice weakened. Forget it, he's just a person without principles. Even if he had principles, in front of his great host, all his principles would turn into bubbles. He's so obedient even when he's small. He's the cutest when he's reading seriously. I really want to touch his head and pinch his face. When the system heard Tangwa mumbling to it, it was speechless. If you want to do it, just do it. Why do you have to say this to a single system? Tangwa's serious gaze caught Jin's attention. He turned his head. Although he didn't say a word, his meaning was obvious. Why was she looking at him? Tangwa smiled. Little brother, you're really good looking. Jin was already 9 years old. He was just sick, but his IQ was very high. He had been in a special school for so many years, so his emotions were actually quite stable. Compared to those children who were truly autistic to the point where they could not control their emotions and did some unreasonable things, his mind was actually very clear about what he wanted to do. He didn't speak because he didn't want to speak. He ignored them because he didn't want to. He was immersed in his own world because he wanted to be immersed in his own world. In fact, he didn't think he was sick. Of course, he couldn't be like a normal child, crying and talking to express his thoughts. But he still had the emotions that he should have, just slightly. For example, when Tangwa praised him for his good looks, it still made his mood very good. He didn't say anything, but the gaze he looked at Tangwa with became much gentler. He wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down. Talk about life. Find a confidant, the peak. Chapter 2150. The next day, Tangwa and Tang Ran went out and bumped into Shongjin. Shongjin was sent to school by the chauffeur. When the chauffeur saw them, he quickly opened the door for them. Shongjin sat in the back seat. Tang Ran saw her sister get into the car and sit beside Shongjin. She silently chose to sit in the front passenger seat. She really didn't know how her sister tricked the little brother opposite to study in her class. Now, they even had to go to school together every morning. Oh, right. When they left school yesterday, her sister held her hand and said that she wanted to go to school with Shongjin in the future. She felt strange. However, it was really great that they didn't have to squeeze in the bus. Ran, be good in class. Don't be naughty. Tangwa touched Tang Ran's head and waved at her. I know, sister. I won't be naughty. Tang Ran repeated yesterday's words. She knew that her sister was worried about her. Just like the parents of her classmates, it was just that they didn't have parents to send them off. It was her sister who had been taking care of her. Many times, she wanted to say that she already knew how to take care of herself and never made trouble in class. Almost every day, she was praised by the teacher. Every time, she had a share of the little red flowers. But her sister was concerned about her. If she behaved impatiently, she would be like those naughty children. She would definitely make her sister angry. Tang Ran looked in the direction that Tangwa and Shongjin left together. Her eyes suddenly widened. How could her sister's bag be in the hands of the little brother opposite? Little brother, I can actually carry it myself. The bag isn't heavy. Shongjin didn't speak. She silently carried the bag with a serious expression and walked side by side with Tangwa to the classroom. Of course, I'm very happy that little brother helped me carry my bag. Shongjin still didn't speak, but the corners of her lips were curved. Her hand holding the bag tightened, as if she was afraid of losing it. System. God, it's really hard to explain. Not only did she enslave her sister to help her do her homework, but now she even tricked a little boy to carry her bag. She's really shameless. When they reached the classroom, Shongjin handed the bag to Tangwa. Tangwa took out her workbook. She had to hand it in later. At this time, she found that Shongjin's school bag was bulging. It didn't look like it was filled with books. Shongjin stared at her curiously. She opened her school bag and took out a bag of food. She put it under her desk drawer. Then, he took out his exercise book and handed it in together with hers. Turning around, he flipped through the book and sat down to read it silently. Although it's not good to eat too many snacks. Taking advantage of the fact that it was still early and it wasn't time for the morning reading, Tangwa took out the bag of snacks and opened it to eat. But I still like to eat what little brother gave me. I will control myself and won't eat it all at once. After all, girls need to maintain their figure. If they eat too much, they won't look good if they gain weight. Shongjin's hand, which was holding the book, paused. She looked up at Tangwa, who was eating with relish, and lowered her head again. Tangwa looked at the boy's side profile and could feel that he was in a good mood. It tastes pretty good. She leaned over and whispered, "Do you want to try some?" Tangwa took out a preserved plum and reached her hand to Shongjin's lips. Shongjin only glanced at it before opening his mouth and sucking it. The preserved plum had a sweet and sour taste. He had never eaten something like this before. Is it delicious? It wasn't delicious, but it wasn't bad either. Shongjin subconsciously nodded. He wanted to talk about transmigration, Female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life. Find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2151. Everyone in the class realized that the new student, Shangjin, ignored everyone and did not speak a single word. The only person who could talk to him was his deskmate, who was also the prettiest girl in the class. The new student, Shangjin, had excellent results and was already the idol of the top students in the class. There were already some girls who came over with their notebooks to ask Shangjin questions, trying to get close to him. After all, who would not want to get close to such a good-looking guy with good results? But before they could reach Shangjin, their notebooks were snatched away by Tanghua. Shangjin is reading seriously. If you have any questions, you can ask me, and I will help you. The teacher said that students should be friendly and help each other. These little girls' grades are pretty good. They don't think that Tanghua's grades can help them solve the questions, especially since Tanghua was the only one in the class that Shangjin looked at differently. This made them a little jealous and a little unconvinced. Since Tanghua wanted to help them, they asked her the real questions to embarrass her and let Shangjin know how trashy his deskmate was. But they seemed to have failed. No matter how difficult the questions were, Tanghua could solve them for them. Not only that, she explained it more clearly than the teacher. Simple steps were enough for them to understand. The jealousy in the beginning was long gone. So that's how it is. It's actually so simple. Tanghua, you are so good. After a wave of praises from the girls, they saw Tang was 80 marks and could not help but ask, "You can even solve such difficult questions. Why didn't you get full marks?" Tanghua had personally explained so many difficult questions to them just now. There was no doubt that she was good. But why didn't she score high? The system wanted to laugh. She was exposed, right? She did not want her little brother to help the other girls and actually did it herself. Now, she was not ordinary, right? Actually, even if the other girls asked, with the cutie's personality, he would definitely ignore them. You might not believe me. Tanghua's expression did not change. She did not feel that there was anything wrong with lying to the girls. Anyway, she had already lied to 2 girls, so there was nothing wrong with lying to 2 more. I have exam phobia. It means that when it comes to exams, I do not perform well. Really? That's too bad. Then can this illness be cured? The girls' jealousy came and went quickly. Just now, Tanghua even gave them snacks to eat and explained difficult questions to them. Tanghua was definitely not a bad student and could be Shangjin's deskmate. Did your parents bring you to the hospital for treatment? I think your illness seems to be a psychological problem. It's better to treat it as soon as possible. After finally getting rid of a group of little girls, Tanghua welcomed a group of little boys, who also came to ask her questions. They asked her to help them explain the questions. Tanghua, everyone likes good-looking little brothers, and they also like pretty little sisters. Shangjin raised his head and looked at the boys standing around the desk. He took the book and did not say a word. Instead, he wrote down the steps to answer the questions on the book at the side. He even gave them explanations for some parts that they did not understand. The little boys took the detailed answer book and left in a daze. Little brother, you're really good. Tanghua gave him a thumbs up. Shangjin did not say anything. He pursed his lips and continued to read with his head buried in his book. His ears were accompanied by the sound of the little girl eating snacks. Very happy. He wanted to talk about transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life. Find a confidant, the peak. Chapter 2152. At noon, Tanghua and Shangjin went to the kindergarten to pick up Tang Ran. Then they went to the cafeteria together. If it wasn't for Tanghua, Shangjin definitely wouldn't have come to line up for food. But now he held 3 plates alone and was in front of the line. Tanghua and Tang Ran stood aside and waited silently. They only spoke when the Annie asked them what they wanted to eat. After the food was served, Shangjin would pass it to them and let them take it over first. Finally, they took their own and squeezed out of the crowd. System, it's not easy. For the sake of your future wife, you have to slowly recover from your autism. You can still squeeze in the line. Little brother, it's been hard on you. Eat more. Shang-Jin looked at the extra meat on his plate and silently glanced at Tanghua. I prefer vegetarian. Girls have to maintain their figure. Shang-Jin lowered his head and ate without any intention to speak. But when he was eating, he subconsciously left the food that Tanghua picked for him for last. After dinner, Tanghua sent Tang ran back to the classroom. When she returned to the classroom, she didn't see Shang-Jin. After waiting for about 5 minutes, Shang-Jin walked into the classroom with a serious face and a cup of milk tea in his hand. System. It can't be? Shang-Jin placed the milk tea in front of Tanghua and then took out his book to continue reading. I like the taste of this. Tanghua took a sip. This guy was really too cute. She didn't know if he would still be so cute when he grew up. She sipped the milk tea and flipped through the manga with a smile on her face. Shang-Jin would occasionally look up at her. Seeing that she was smiling happily, he would look at her for a while. When she was about to notice, he would bury his head in his book again. Just like that, Shang-Jin integrated into Tanghua's life. They went to class together every day, went to school together. At night, after finishing his homework, Shang-Jin would still sit on the balcony and play the piano. Tanghua would always ask him to play her favorite songs. Shang-Jin still didn't speak, but he would play the songs she liked. She didn't like children's songs and he didn't like them either. He just thought that she would like them, so he went out of his way to learn a few. When Tang Ran was in primary school, Tanghua found the teacher and said that Tang Ran was very smart and asked if she could skip to the 2nd grade directly. Of course, this matter was finally settled by Shang-Jin. Tang Ran was indeed smart, and the papers given to her were all correct. With such an outstanding student and Shang-Jin's request, the teacher had no reason to refuse. Just like that, Tang Ran sat in front of Tanghua and became classmates with her sister. Every day, she would hear her sister praising him as her little brother. It was all thanks to her sister that she could enjoy a cup of milk tea every afternoon. There was also the weekly gift bag of snacks. Since her sister's name was Tanghua, the young man opposite her also gave her a small gift bag of snacks. Tang Ran was very satisfied. She also found Shang-Jin much more pleasing to the eye. Those who treated her sister well were all her good friends. On this day, the two sisters and Shang-Jin walked out of the school gate at the same time. A group of people walked towards them. Tanghua felt that something was wrong. He grabbed one of them with each hand and quickly pulled them to the driver's parking spot. He pulled open the car door and stuffed them in. Through the car window, Tanghua saw Jun's gloomy face. Shang-Jin also saw the man standing in the corner. He noticed him because Tanghua was looking at him. Who is he? The young man's voice was very pleasant, a little cold, and a little bitter. I want to talk about transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life. Find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2153. He's a bad uncle. Tang Ren also recognized Jun and said instinctively. But she shut up after saying that. She leaned against the window and looked at Jun's position with fear in her eyes. She was still a little confused as to why her sister pulled her and ran away. But when she saw Jun, she seemed to have understood something. Host, Jun doesn't seem to have given up and is still planning to do something to you. Jun's case had been going on for a few months. As for who hurt Jun, he was very tight-lipped and refused to reveal anything to the police. The police were also very helpless and could only give up in the end. Since the victim was unwilling to reveal anything and there were no clues at the scene, what could they do? Jun's actions made them believe that Jun had really gone to make an appointment, which was why he had managed to meet a pervert. Shang-Jin was still staring at Tanghua as if he wanted to hear her say something. A very bad person. Shang-Jin retracted his gaze and took out his phone. He rolled down the window and took a photo of Jun's position. Then, he signaled the chauffeur to drive. Then, he dialed a phone number. Jin. The voice on the other end was very surprised. Jin, it's you? Why are you calling me? Shang-Jin's eyes darkened and he said, look at the photo. I've already seen it. Jin, is there a problem with this man? He's up to no good. Shang-Jin said a few words. After a moment of silence, he said, "Father, deal with it." He was not used to saying so many words at once. But Father Shang was already very happy, and he quickly replied, Okay, I'll deal with it right away." Shang-Jin could even hear Father Shang telling his assistant that his son had called him father today, and even said a few more words to him. After hanging up the phone, Tangwa tugged at Shang-Jin's sleeve and asked softly, "Little brother, how are you going to deal with that person?" "Father will deal with it." Once he opened his mouth, there would be a second sentence. It was not that difficult to talk to Shang-Jin. Especially speaking to Tangwa, he didn't feel anything. It was just that he still didn't like to communicate with words. But he was afraid that she didn't know, so he had to answer her. "Then I don't have to worry." Facing Tangwa's sparkling eyes, the corners of Shang-Jin's lips curled up. She didn't find it difficult to speak anymore. Although Shang-Jin's father would teach Shurjun a lesson, Tangwa felt that Tang Ran was frightened and felt unhappy. Late at night, he put on the invisibility cloak and went to Shurjun's house. After beating him up, he returned. Nowadays, Shurjun's life wasn't easy. Wherever he went, he would be laughed at. If it wasn't for the fact that he still had some money, his drinking friends wouldn't have bothered with him. After all, there was a problem with Shurjun's appointment. The position of his injury was so delicate. Shurjun no longer dared to casually eat and drink like before. If he drank a little too much, the bag hanging on his body would overflow, and all kinds of smells would mix together. Those who drank a little were not willing to play with him anymore. The more Shurjun thought about it, the more indignant he felt. The person he had asked for help from last time had suddenly disappeared for some reason. They had never seen it before, so Shurjun could only assume that the other party was afraid and did not dare to do it. Ever since Tangwa beat Shurjun up, the other party had never appeared again. It was the system that told her that it had found Shurjun in an underground casino. That guy was now addicted to gambling. After Tangwa heard this, she didn't care about it anymore. Then continue to collect information. If there's conclusive evidence, send it to me first. Okay, Madam Host. From this year onwards, incredible cases appeared all over the country, including many places. The victims were all adult males, and the injured parts were all the same. What was even more amazing was that these people had committed the same crime, and were all unclean. After the mysterious person taught the other party a lesson, he would often record the crimes they had committed. Those who watched these videos didn't have any sympathy for what they had suffered. Although many places still set up task forces to catch this mysterious person. However, it had been 5 years and there were no results. From time to time, such cases would appear. What they cared about was not what happened to those people, but whether those injured people had done those unforgivable things again. At this time, Tangwa had graduated from junior high school. Her grades were ordinary, and she could go to an ordinary junior high school. Shang-Jin and Tangwa both scored full marks in their junior high school exams. They tacitly announced that they would go to whichever school Tangwa went to. Now, in front of Tangwa sat the 3 principals of the best junior high schools in the city, looking at her with smiles. "Student Tangwa, then you have to consider our school." "Tangwa, sister, you can choose whichever school you want," Tang Ran said confidently. Shang-Jin nodded and looked at her. "System, ha 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 ha. Madam Host, this is your ordinary life. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down. Talk about life, find confidence, peak." Chapter 2154. In the end, Tangwa chose one of the 3 junior high schools. With 2 top students accompanying her, she became the most glorious junior high school student this year. Her grades were obviously average, and the junior high school with those grades would be ordinary. Who told her to have a sister with super good grades and a desk mate who was only good to her. Her life hadn't started yet, but the people around her felt that Tangwa had already reached the peak of her life. They even had a hunch that as long as Tangwa's grades weren't so bad that she wouldn't be able to get into high school, then when the time came, if Tang Ran and Shang-Jin still had the best grades, the scene of choosing a junior high school might be repeated. Just thinking about it made people envious and jealous. Sure enough, some people looked ordinary, but they were lucky and could make an ordinary life extraordinary. No matter how envious the people around them were and how they discussed this experience, Tanghua and the other two entered junior high school. Xiangjin still spoke very little. In the eyes of the students, Xiangjin didn't like to talk and was a little cold, but they didn't think that she was sick. They even thought that Xiangjin's IQ was too high and she disdained to talk to ordinary people like them. As for why she talked to Tanghua, it was because Tanghua was good-looking. That's right, she was good-looking. Even geniuses were visual animals and wouldn't be so heartless as to ignore beautiful little classmates. Tang Ran was actually very beautiful, but she had the image of a top student, so people forgot that she was also a beautiful little girl. Because her image of a top student was too dazzling, people couldn't see anything else. In the junior high school class, Tang was still sat with Xiangjin. Originally, the class didn't allocate seats like this, but Xiangjin's situation was special. Many people also knew that Xiangjin seemed to be a little sick, so everyone was more tolerant of students with good grades. Many people agreed with this kind of priority. The junior high school class teacher smiled and gave the two best seats to Tanghua and Xiangjin. She looked at Tanghua very pleasingly. According to the principal, if it weren't for Tanghua, Xiangjin and Tang Ran definitely wouldn't have come to their school. One had to know that Xiangjin's parents had promised that they would donate a teaching building to the junior high school where Xiangjin went to.
Calm, that's right.
In fact, the main reason why Xiangjin could have so many conveniences was that his parents had donated a teaching building to the school for him. A long time ago, Papa Xiang had already announced that as long as Xiangjin continued to study, he would donate a building to the school that Xiangjin attended. Xian Shi Xiangjin not only had good grades, but his family was also rich. Although he was a little taciturn, he was different from the other male students. He was quiet and didn't cause trouble. Wasn't that the favorite student of the teachers? Moreover, Tang Ran was also a top student. Although they didn't test her IQ, the teachers who taught her all felt that her IQ should be very high. They all thought that she could skip grades continuously. All the teachers who were in the know looked at Tanghua kindly. Even though her exam results were mediocre, it did not stop the teachers from liking her. Tanghua said, "I think something's wrong. I don't care what you think. I've always felt that something was wrong." It was a fool's dream for a person who is not ordinary to begin with to want to be an ordinary person. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down, chat about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2155. Hello, Tang Ran. My name is Wenmo. Tanghua and Xiangjin sat together, while Tang Ran sat in front of them. The teachers had planned to arrange for the three of them to sit together from the beginning. They wouldn't admit it. They were afraid that Tang Ran would be dissatisfied if they arranged for her to sit far away. Tang Ran turned her head and looked at the boy who was already sitting down. He was very handsome, and she could almost see how he would grow up. Especially his eyes, which seemed to be full of wisdom. Tang Ran instantly felt that this classmate was different from other boys. He looked very steady, didn't jump around, and was dressed very cleanly. He even seemed a little meticulous. His fingernails were also neatly trimmed. Many boys of this age didn't care much about their image. They liked to play outside, so their palms weren't too clean. They liked to play basketball and all kinds of sports, or they liked to sit in front of the computer and play games. As for their hairstyles, most of the boys in junior high school didn't care about it. Her desk mate was different. His appearance was almost perfect. "Hello, do you know me?" Tang Ran got into junior high school with full marks. "Who doesn't know you?" Wenmo said with a smile. "WWW."
Calm.
Tang Ran didn't suspect anything. She took out a tissue from her bag and was about to wipe the chair and table when Wenmo spoke again. "I've already wiped it for you." "Thank you." Tang Ran smiled and thanked him. Seeing that the chair was indeed very clean, she sat down. The table was also clean, and there wasn't a single scrap in the drawer. Tang Ran put her bag in it with ease. She took out 2 books and couldn't help but look back at Wenmo. Mobile phone terminal /M. She saw that Mo was looking at her with a gentle smile.
Why are you looking at me?
She touched her cheek. Is there something dirty on my face?
No.
Mo didn't look away. I'm just shocked. Shocked about what? Tang Ran was curious. No one had stared at her like this before. This boy named Mo was the first. In the past, the little boy would sneak peeks at her timidly. She didn't want to be friends with him. His grades were bad, and he was timid. Even if he asked her to play games, he wouldn't be able to beat her. Even though her sister did not do well in every exam when it came to games, unless her sister went easy on her, she would not be able to win. What made her even more depressed was that every time the teacher picked her sister in class, she would be able to answer fluently. When it came to exams, his sister would always fail. In her sister's words, she had a fear of exams, and those who were familiar with her sister believed her. Speaking of which, after so many years, why was she still helping her sister with her homework? She didn't mind the trouble, but she was worried about her sister's future. She glanced at Tangwa's seat and saw that she was sitting by the window, eating a bag of snacks. Shang-Jin, who was silent and didn't pay attention to anyone, helped her sister open the bottle cap with a serious expression. Tang Ran was speechless. Shang-Jin might not have seen her sister holding a knife, especially the way she cut bones. Her hand raised, and the knife fell. The strength was just right. She could cut the meat and bones neatly into small pieces. With such precise strength, she didn't believe that she couldn't open the bottle cap and carry her bag. I'm shocked that Tang Ran, who always gets full marks at her exams, is so beautiful. She's talented and beautiful. I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2156. When Mo's praise made Tang Ran come back to her senses. Are you hungry? I brought food. When Mo took out milk and biscuits from his bag and placed them in front of Tang Ran looked at the milk that had been pushed in front of her with the straw inserted.
It was already like this.
If she still refused, would there be any meaning? My results aren't as good as Tang Ran's. It's okay to get full marks occasionally, but every time, there's a big problem. Now that I'm in junior high, the questions will only get harder, so I'll have to ask Tang Ran to take care of me in the future. Tang Ran finally understood that this male classmate who was trying to get close to her was trying to suck up to her. She took the milk and drank it. No problem. If you have any difficulties in your studies in the future, you can ask me. As long as I know, I'll help you. During lunch, Tang Wan noticed a new face silently following Tang Ran. This little classmate was quite good-looking in class, but of course, he was still a little worse than her little brother. Sister, this is Mo, my desk mate. He's also a new friend. He's different from the other stinky boys. In the future, he'll be under my protection. Mo, Tangwa thought for a while and couldn't help but look up at him. Mo was also looking at Tangwa. His eyes were calm, and he couldn't see anything wrong with them. Tangwa's eyes were a little curious. She asked, "How's his result?" "It shouldn't be very good. He said he wants me to take care of him," Tang Ran said casually. Mo wasn't angry at all. She thought of something and added, "He said he can only get full marks occasionally, so his results can only be considered average." After all, she and Shang-Jin always got full marks. Wasn't it just average to her? But it was still much better than the other stinky boys in the class. When the ranking of the junior high exam results was released, Tangwa saw that Mo only had 1 point deducted and nodded. It was very average. Although 1 point was deducted, he didn't make it into the top 10. Other than Tang Ran and Shang-Jin, who had answered the additional questions correctly, there were 3 others who had scored full marks. When Mo's score had been deducted by 1 point. The reason why Wenma was ranked at the back was because of his name. The letter W was really at the back of the alphabet. Net mobile phone /M. Don't be discouraged. If there's anything you don't understand, ask me. Try to get full marks next time. That way, you'll have a chance to enter the top 5. In the end, Tang Ran added, the questions will get harder and harder in the future. Even I can't guarantee full marks every time. I heard that some teachers will deduct marks. Mo seemed to be comforted. I will do my best to learn from you. Mo was a man of his word. He would always find Tang Ran when she was free to discuss the topic with her. The original group of 3 became a group of 4. Tangwa pondered over Mo's grades and suddenly shuddered. Tong, do you think there will be a situation where the 3 of them will choose whichever school I choose when I'm in high school? It's very possible. The system laughed secretly. The 2 excellent students, Shang Jin and Tang Ran, plus the ordinary Tangwa and the ordinary Mo. He felt that the students around him were going crazy. At school in the morning, Tangwa and the others would always bump into Mo, who had just arrived at school. Mo would come up to greet them and subconsciously take Tang Ran's bag for her. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down, talk about life, find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2157. I still have some strength. Tang Ran had rejected him before. Mo, you're too polite. Mo didn't let go. He carried her bag easily and followed her. The teacher said that students should love and help each other. Boys should help girls. Besides, you've helped me so much. It's only right for me to do such a small thing. Tangwa and Shangjin walked behind them. Tangwa drank her breakfast milk empty-handed and looked at Mo's smiling face as he helped her sister carry her school bag. His expression didn't allow her to refuse. Shangjin felt Tangwa's gaze and spat out 2 simple words. Worried? Computer. www. Calm. No, I'm not worried. Tangwa shook her head. Little brother, go to the classroom quickly. We'll be late. What was there to worry about? The male and female leads had already met. Jun had lost all his money in the underground casino a few years ago. Later, he owed a lot of debt. His leg was broken and a finger was cut off. His wife couldn't see any hope and ran away with someone else. The current Jun was living a life worse than a beggar. Some time ago, she even heard people talking about Jun, saying that he had become a beggar. He smelled so bad that even beggars weren't willing to take him in. If he continued to waste his life like this, Jun wouldn't have many years left to live. Jun, who brought tragedy to the original owner and Tang Ran, had become like this. In this life, Tang Ran didn't know that at all. She would naturally live happily with the male lead. However, this Mo was very strange. Mo only acted like he cared about Tang Ran and didn't reveal any other flaws. Other than being a little mature, he didn't do anything beyond his age range. Therefore, Tangwa couldn't tell what was going on with Mo for the time being. Even if there was a problem, she didn't see any malice. Instead, he treated Tang Ran well, which she was happy to see. www.
Calm.
Mo was also observing Tangwa and found that her behavior was very ordinary. After class, she almost didn't read a single book and didn't stop eating snacks. One day, when Mo found something, Tang Ran was holding 2 workbooks and doing homework with slightly different handwriting. He glanced at the name of the workbook. The 2 words, Tangwa, were particularly eye-catching. What are you doing? Mo asked in disbelief. Tang Wu hummed and whispered, I'm helping my sister with her homework. Didn't she? Mo was shocked. He was wondering why Tangwa was so free. Everyone else had to do their homework after class, but she was eating all the time and never stopped. Although the male student named Shangjin didn't talk much, he had to listen to everything he said. As a male student, his actions were simply unprincipled. I was the one who helped my sister with her homework when she was in 1st grade. Mo fell silent. Did it start in the 1st year? You can do this. Sister doesn't like to do homework. Actually, it's not a troublesome thing. It's just a matter of convenience. Tang Ran buried her head and wrote seriously. Mo asked, Aren't you afraid of hurting your sister? Sister just doesn't like to do homework. Actually, her grades are quite stable. Tang Ran said nonchalantly, Even if something really happens in the future, there's still me and brother Shangjin, right? Anyway, we won't let sister suffer. Mo didn't say anything. He only felt that all of this was beyond his understanding. Mo returned home. It was rare to see his father back so early, so he greeted him. "Mo, how are you adapting?" Won-hung asked. "I want to chat with more like-minded people about." Chapter 2158. Not bad, when Mo replied faintly. "Didn't you plan to go to another school? Why did you choose this place?" "This place is closer to home," when Mo answered casually. Won-hung did not ask any more questions. As a police officer, he could feel that when Mo was lying. Moreover, his son had changed a lot during this period. However, because he was too busy, he did not notice the changes in his son. Calm. He came back so early today because there were no important cases in the station for the time being. He planned to come back to accompany his son. The father and son cooked dinner together and watched TV as they ate. Suddenly, they saw a piece of news. It seemed that a beggar had died, but when they saw the beggar's information, the father and son tacitly stopped eating and stared at the TV screen without blinking. When Mo felt Won-hung's gaze and asked, "Dad, what's wrong with this beggar?" "I know this beggar. There was a case on him back then, and it's still an unsolved mystery." Unfortunately, he was unwilling to admit it no matter what. His family was originally quite well off, but for some reason, he got addicted to gambling. To be honest, I was still brooding over that case at that time, and I even sent someone to follow him for a while. Speaking of this, Won-hung sighed. After that, he went in and out of the casino every day, and it didn't take long for him to lose all his money. His wife ran away with someone else, and later, he became a beggar. I even met him once. His eyes were dull, and I couldn't get anything out of him. I didn't expect him to die. What kind of case was it? Won-hung was quite interested in talking about the case, and he told Mo about the case in detail. Mo grasped the key point. "So, the person who hurt Shurjun back then hasn't been found yet?" "Yes, although we haven't found who the other party is. I already have a suspect in my heart." Mo paused and asked, "Who is it?" He was also very curious about who had crippled Shurjun and did such a good thing. Who else could it be? "It's the mysterious murderer that we're looking for all over the country. The other party only targets one kind of people." Won-hung opened some information for Mo to see. Mo looked at the information, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Who was this person? These men looked very miserable. As a man, it went without saying how important that thing was, yet it had been cut off by the other party. Moreover, after 6 years of tracking, there was no way to find the real culprit. There was not even a shadow of the culprit. "Father, do you think this person should be arrested?" Won-ma asked. Won-hung shook his head and smiled. "I don't know either. Mo, if you had asked me this question 6 years ago, my answer would have been to capture this person at all costs. But in the past 6 years, that mysterious man has revealed too many things. I don't know whether I should capture him or not. As a police officer, my duty is to catch such people, but as a person, I don't wish for them to be caught." Won-hung would never say such words at the police station. It was because Mo was his son that he dared to speak his mind. His son wanted to be a police officer since he was young, so Won-hung didn't object. "Dad, if my dream changes, will you blame me?" "Of course not. Whatever you choose in the future is your freedom. So, Mo, what has your dream become? I want to chat with more like-minded people about." Chapter 2159. Are you reading chemistry books?
Yeah.
Tang Ran looked up and answered Mo, seeing that Mo was staring at her books. She asked, "Why? Are you interested too?" "I see that you not only have chemistry books here, but also many about computers. They don't look like middle school or high school textbooks. They look a bit like the books in bookstores. They look more professional." Mo expressed his doubts. The books in front of Tang Ran were almost as thick as a dictionary, but from the looks of it, they were more frightening. Could he imagine a little girl who had just entered middle school carrying 2 or 3 such heavy books in her bag? Were they books that almost all middle school students couldn't understand? When I was very young, my sister took me to the school library to read books. I seemed to be more interested in these 2 aspects since I was young. At first, I read books in the library. Later, my sister would take me to the city library on weekends. Later, I read almost all the books in the city library. These books in front of me were all bought by my sister from other places. When Mo took them and flipped through them, as he said, these books were very professional. Many bookstores might not even be able to buy them. As for the books on the internet, although they could be seen, there were many pirated copies. If one bought pirated copies and made a mistake, the loss would outweigh the gain. Under normal circumstances, people who bought such books wouldn't buy pirated copies. Learning computers not only requires reading books, but also practical operations. My sister had already saved money to prepare a more high-end laptop for me, but Tang Ran whispered, but I don't dare to bring it with me all the time. I'm also afraid that my family will find out. I only use it at night when I go back. Usually, it's locked in the cupboard. www.
Calm.
Her father, Tang Yuankuan, put all his attention on her brother, Tang Bin. Her stepmother, Su Siyun, didn't care about them. All these years, she was able to grow up to where she was today and was discovered to have different talents from ordinary people. It was all thanks to her sister. So, she was willing to do homework for 6 years. If it wasn't for her sister, how could she come into contact with different worlds and find the most suitable direction for her? As for why she said this to an Mo, perhaps it was because when Mo looked very trustworthy. Moreover, when Mo didn't know about her family's situation, she thought that it wouldn't be a big deal to share with others that she had a good sister. Even geniuses had their vanity. For example, she really wanted to let people know that her sister was not ordinary. If she was really ordinary, why did her sister discover her talent at such a young age? System. Your sister is just lazy. She is too lazy to work hard. Raising a cow would be enough to make her happy for the rest of her life. I saw you flipping through a high school textbook before. When Ma asked another question, are you studying high school courses?
Yeah.
Tang Ran didn't refute because she wasn't the only one studying high school courses. Then, why didn't you choose to skip a grade? Tang Ran said matter-of-factly, I want to be with my sister. Moreover, brother Shangjin has already taken the university courses. He has no intention of skipping a grade. Mobile phone, /m. When Mo's eyelids twitched, and he was speechless. You've already learned the university curriculum? Yes, brother Shangjin is the smartest. I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2160. When Mo felt a heavy blow. Tang Ran was smarter than he thought. Even with his current ability, it was easy for him to deal with the middle school curriculum. But he had already forgotten about the high school curriculum. If he wanted to maintain his results, he had to study hard to keep up. But Tang Ran and Shangjin, these two little brats, one was reading the high school curriculum while the other was reading the university curriculum. They were real geniuses. He glanced at Shangjin and Tang's seats. They were empty. Today, it was the Shang family's chauffeur who sent Tang Ran to school. He didn't have time to ask where the two of them went. Brother Shangjin is participating in the family's piano competition. Sister will definitely go to the competition to cheer for him. Tang Ran didn't think there was a problem. Ever since they were in the same class, Shangjin would attend almost every piano competition and performance. Her elder sister, on the other hand, would never miss a chance. With Shangjin's help, it was easy for her sister to apply for leave. And her sister's results were really stable. They didn't go up or down. Even if they weren't outstanding, they wouldn't drag the class down. The teachers had long given up. They thought that no matter how hard her sister studied, her results would be the same. They might as well give her some freedom. Actually, I'm still very interested in computers. When Mo wasn't lying. He was indeed very talented in this area. As for chemistry, he only understood a little more than the average person. He didn't really intend to go into that field. After talking to his father that day, he was asked what his new dream was. He told his father that he liked computers and planned to go into this field in the future. His father was very supportive. He never knew that his father was such an open-minded person. The next day, he bought him a very high-end computer and hoped that he would work hard to learn what he liked. If I have any questions in the future, I'll still ask you for advice. When Mo smiled. Perhaps because they had the same hobby, Tang Ran's gaze towards when Mo became gentler. No matter what she didn't mind when Mo following her. At first, the teachers were a little worried. Tang Ran was a very good-looking student. Although when Mo's results weren't bad, in front of Tang Ran, they could only be described as ordinary. But when Mo's looks were very popular in the class, he often received confessions from little girls. The teachers saw that when Mo and Tang Ran were close and were afraid that he would affect Tang Ran and lead her astray. After observing them for a while, he realized that the two kids were getting along with each other openly. When they got together, they only talked about their studies. There was a good distance between the two of them. When Mo would bring food to Tang Ran from time to time and help her carry her school bag when he came in the morning. He had many difficult questions for Tang Ran, and in order to repay her, he could only do what he could to help her. After a semester of observation, Tang Ran's final exam was still full marks. The language teacher really wanted to deduct a mark from the essay, but he was scolded by the teachers of the other subjects. He was afraid of being attacked, so in the end, he gave full marks. On the other hand, when Mo's results didn't seem to have improved, he was still deducted 1 point. But judging from the ranking, he had improved. He was originally ranked outside the top 10, but now he was ranked in the top 5 of the class. As for Tanghua, regardless of whether it was the midterm exam or the final exam, she was always ranked in the top 10 or 20 places in the class. She was the only one who did not move. The teacher also felt that it was a miracle. He had never seen something like this before. Chapter 2161. Every time there was an activity or program in school, Shangjin would always be asked to perform piano. Other than being very talented in his studies, Shangjin was also very talented at the piano. If he hadn't already acknowledged a famous pianist as his teacher, with his current achievements, there would probably be many famous masters in the world fighting to take him in as their student. Shangjin's piano skills made their music class become Shangjin's performance class. When the music teacher needed accompaniment, he saw Shangjin sitting in his seat with a serious expression. He didn't dare to embarrass himself and played the piano for the accompaniment himself. Instead, he kindly invited Shangjin to help. Of course, Shangjin wouldn't accept anyone's invitation. After all, he still had a lot of style. However, the music teacher wasn't worried because there was a little girl sitting beside Shangjin who especially liked to listen to piano music. Every time Shangjin put on a serious face, the little girl beside him would tug on his sleeve, flip open the music book, point at a song, and whisper, "Little brother, I want to hear you play this." Although it was very soft, the class was very quiet. Everyone could clearly hear the little girl's sweet voice. The other boys on the flight were a little annoyed. Why didn't their parents have the foresight to let them learn piano when they were young? If they learned, would the pretty little girl beside them also tug on their sleeves and say in a sweet voice, "Little brother, I want to hear that. Can you play it well?" Regardless of what the others were thinking, Shangjin tidied up his sleeves and stood up from his seat. He was still holding the music book in his hand. The page that he flipped open was the song that Tanghua had picked. He sat in front of the piano. The music teacher looked at Tanghua with a kind gaze. Ever since he taught Shangjin's music class, he felt that every lesson was enjoyable. With Shangjin's accompaniment, he felt that his singing had reached the peak of his life. Moreover, this lesson was the smoothest. The students in the class were immersed in it, and it was really easy to teach. Shangjin's fingers touched the piano keys. Although he didn't raise his head to look at Tanghua, he could feel that among the countless gazes, there was one that was the most special. That kind of focused and serious gaze that was emitting heat was something he could not refuse. His teacher said that he was now considered a pianist with some success, so he could not perform for others casually. Shangjin was conflicted, but Guogua seemed to like it very much, so she could only let her teacher down. Moreover, this was a music class, not a public performance. The teacher did not install a surveillance camera on him, so he should not know about this. Moreover, he had to play the piano on the balcony every night. If Guagua, who lived across from him, didn't listen, she wouldn't be able to sleep at night. His mind was in a mess, but his fingers were calm and steady as he played a complete song. It was such a beautiful song that even when Emo couldn't help but be immersed in it, he had to admit that every music lesson was a pleasure. Sister will definitely present flowers to Shang-Jin. Sure enough, as soon as Tang Ran finished speaking, she saw Shang-Jin walk back to her seat. Tangwa took out a flower from nowhere and handed it to Shang-Jin. Although Shang-Jin didn't have much of an expression, she still took the flowers. Under Wenmo's incredulous gaze, Shang-Jin took out a small vase from the drawer. Chapter 2162. When Emma watched as Shang-Jin placed the flower into the vase, her careful look was really strange. A junior high student definitely wouldn't notice such a detail. But when Emma was different. He already felt that things weren't simple. At least, Shang-Jin's feelings for Tangguo weren't simple. Well, it was strange that a person with autism not only came to an ordinary school, but also carried a little girl's bag. If he still couldn't figure it out, he would be a fool. So, was the reason why the world had changed so much because of Shang-Jin? He had observed Tangua for a semester. Other than eating snacks, she only ate snacks. Although she was a troublemaker in class, she didn't seem to be serious. So far, Tang Ran had helped her with her homework, and Tang Ran had taken care of all the test papers. www. Com. Even if the other party was selected to answer questions by the teacher and could answer fluently, when Emo didn't suspect anything and thought that Shang-Jin was secretly reminding her. In the end, when Emo locked his suspicions on Shang-Jin, she had autism, was a genius, and had a good family background. Many things were relatively easy for her. Whether it was true or not, when Emo just kept this suspicion in his heart and didn't have the slightest intention of sharing it with others. He glanced at Tang Ran, who was humming a song according to the music book, and his lips curled up. If it weren't for that mysterious person, Ran wouldn't be so happy. Now Ran was happy, and full of the vitality that people her age should have. Without those dirty things, Ran would be very happy in this life. So, his dream in this life was to be by Ran's side and be her guardian. He used to protect many people. In this life, he only wanted to be selfish and protect her. This time, there wouldn't be any misunderstandings between them because of their identities, and he wouldn't have to suffer in his heart.
What?
Tang Ran noticed that when Emo had been staring at her in a daze, so she raised her hand and waved in front of his eyes. When Emo came back to his senses and said, "There are 2 lines that I can't sing yet. They're always out of tune." "Then let's sing together. I'll sing a line, and you'll sing a line. Take it slow." When Emo had no reason to refuse and started singing with Tang Ran, Tang was secretly peeled a candy and put it in her mouth. She glanced at Emo and Tang Ran. "Dear host, Emo is flirting with your younger sister. Ran is a genius. She'll be very busy in the future. Emo is a good person. He's good at both the hall and the kitchen. Now Ran sits in front of the computer for a few hours. If I didn't call her, I don't know how long she would stare at the computer. Emo is a good person, and he's also Ran's fate. With him around, he'll definitely take good care of Ran. Mobile phone /m. com/host. Aren't you afraid that he'll suspect you? After all, his father is a police officer. So, what if I suspect you? He had already lived a new life. If he still chose his original path, he would be courting death. And I think he's very smart. He won't take the same old path. Of course, the system knew that Tangua was not afraid of suspicion. If she did not give herself away, no one would be able to find out. Their time in junior high was wonderful, but Tangua's classmates were actually very tired. The reason for this was that there were a few perverts in the class. Shang-Jin and Tang Ran, who always scored full marks and tied for first place. There was also Emo, who was unwilling to let go. Chapter 2163. Actually, they were just envious of the 3 students with good grades. They weren't jealous at all. The one they were really jealous of was the one who ate snacks every day and was close to Shangjin and the rest, Tanghua. Tanghua's grades were ordinary. Her only advantage was that she was especially good-looking. So why was she so lucky? Among the junior high school classmates, there was no lack of people who compared Tang Ran and Tanghua. They all said that Tang Ran was 1 or 2 years older than Tanghua, but her grades couldn't compare to Tang Ran at all. If it was really an ordinary little girl, the 2 sisters might really have some conflicts. But Tanghua didn't care about these children's words at all. Her mind wasn't on them. The one who really couldn't bear to hear these words was Tang Ran. Why did everyone think that her sister was ordinary? Clearly, her sister was good at everything except for her bad grades and exams. System. Big sister Tangwu, your filter is really too big. One day, Tang Ran was in the ladies' room. Just as she was about to come out, she heard people outside talking about Tanghua and her. They were all talking about Tanghua. Tang Ran was a little angry and opened the door directly. At that time, the little girl's expressions were very awkward. Tang Ran walked up lightly and glanced at them. These girls' grades weren't good. They were ranked in the lower middle. Tanghua's grades were always within the top 20, which was considered average. And these girls were almost all in the top 30. When they talked about Tanghua, they were also very jealous. When Tang Ran heard it, they were a little helpless. Even if my sister's grades are ordinary, with me as her sister, she can go to any good high school she wants in the future. Who asked my sister to have me? After saying that, Tang Ran walked out of the ladies' room arrogantly. At the door, she turned back. Brother Shangjin's grades are also very good. Wenmo's grades are also okay. In the future, the 3 of us will choose a high school. But I'll leave this choice to my sister. You're only concerned about my sister's grades. Why don't you study hard and improve yourselves? After all, my sister doesn't have to worry about anything. She can choose any good high school in the future. Not only high school, but even university. I want big sister to choose freely. Looking at the pale faces of the girls, Tang Ran slowly washed her hands and wiped them with a tissue before walking back to the classroom with a smile. Tanghua wasn't in the classroom. Tang Ran walked to Shangjin's side. Brother Shangjin, let me tell you something. Shangjin raised her head and gestured for her to continue. You have to work harder and strive for full marks in the middle school exams. Shangjin frowned. Full marks? This was not an easy task. We both got full marks, so big sister can choose any school she wants. Hearing this, Shangjin's expression softened a little, and she nodded. Tang Ran walked back to her seat happily. When she saw Wenmo, she poked his arm. Wenmo, I have something to discuss with you. What is it? We're already in the 2nd year of junior high school. From now on, I'll spend some time tutoring you every day. Wenmo was a little puzzled. He was already 3rd in the class. Why did he still need to take remedial classes? In order to catch up with his studies and maintain his grades, he had worked very hard. You have to do well in the middle school exams. Then we can go to the same school. Looking at Tang Ran's expectant look, Wenmo decided to do well in the exams, even if it cost him his life. Time passed quickly. There were more and more mystery cases across the country. Of course, the other party still did not leave any clues, but there were always some infuriating videos and evidence. As a result, those who originally wanted to catch the mysterious person were not in the mood to do so. It was the middle school exams. The easiest one was Tanghua. Anyway, she was going to win this time.
It was just a symbolic test.
It was fine as long as she didn't drag others down. When the results came out, Tang Ran and Shangjin did indeed get full marks. Wenmo still deducted a little. After all, he thought that he was the same person. The other 2 were perverts. They were a little different from him. Before the results came out, the 2 best high schools in the city came to discuss with Tanghua. They asked her which high school she would like to study at in the future. As soon as the results came out, the principals of the 2 high schools came to her again. At that time, she, Shangjin, Tang Ran, and Wenmo were eating ice cream in an ice cream shop. Classmate Tanghua, have you thought about it? The two principals were full of smiles. Tang Ran and Shang Jin were geniuses. They had to get such students. Internet computer. www. Common Tangua was not a drag. Although when Imo was a little worse, he was not bad. If they accepted Tangua, they would get 3 super top students and a teaching building. It was really a good deal, wasn't it? Chapter 2164. At this time, Tangua was already a high school student. Moreover, she was in the top class of the first year of high school. It could be said that the students in this class were the best in the city. This time, she was known by everyone the moment she arrived and successfully became a celebrity in this high school. There was nothing else except that her grades were not good enough for her to study in this high school. Even if she paid to make up for the lack of grades, she should be in the worst class. Because she was currently in the best class, everyone was a little doubtful. As students in this class, they naturally looked down on such opportunistic students. Just because she was led by 3 top students, she could study in the best class like them. It was as if this was an insult to the results of their 3 years of hard work. Of course, as excellent students who were nervous about their studies, even if they were dissatisfied, they would not argue with Tangua. At most, they would ignore her and not play with her. But the 3 top students seemed to have seen through their thoughts and did not want to play with them. During class, Tangua still did not disturb everyone's study, but she would sit in her seat and be absent-minded. The teacher had no intention of interfering. As long as she did not make a fuss, it was up to her. If Tangua had not chosen their school, they would not have gotten Shang Jin and the other 2 top students. With the results of the 3 of them, when the time came to participate in the competition to gild themselves, they would definitely have the qualifications to be guaranteed a place. I heard that you were able to study in the best class in junior high because your sister and Shang Jin were leading you? The girl on the left could not stand it. After class, Tangua did not study or do questions. She just sat in her seat and gnawed on a pile of snacks. There were no strange sounds, and the snacks did not have any strange smells. However, she was working so hard to do questions in her seat, but Tangua was eating snacks. She would not admit that she was jealous. She also could not be like those female gangsters in class and block Tangua in the toilet. She was different from those flirtatious bitches. She also did not care about school violence, but now that she was dissatisfied, she had to express it. Tangua swallowed the snacks in her mouth and said, "Yes." He actually admitted it? The girl's eyes widened. She was the language representative of this class and could be considered a small official. Hearing Tangua openly admit that she was taken away, she couldn't believe it. How could someone be so thick-skinned? It was even thicker than the walls of the teaching building. Even if you're in this class now, you'll be assigned to other classes after the midterm exam. If your results aren't good enough, you can only go to other classes. No matter what, the girls still intended to attack Tangua. You don't work hard and always let others lead you. One day, you will be eliminated in this big environment. Mobile phone /M. Tangua put another plum candy in her mouth and nodded. You're right. The girl couldn't help but feel depressed. It seemed that no matter what she said, the other party wouldn't be afraid. I'm going to read. Although her grades were not bad, her ranking in this class was only around 20th place. Chapter 2165. All the students in the class saw this scene. Shang Jin only frowned. Seeing that Tangua didn't care, he buried his head in his book. He thought that if Guogua really couldn't improve, he would find a way to let her stay in this class. Tang Ran naturally thought the same. When Emo looked at her energetic expression and knew what she was thinking, he thought that he was probably going to be tutored by the other party again. However, he was willing to do it. To be honest, he didn't feel more fulfilled than he did now. Growing up with the girl he liked and accompanying her, this feeling was surprisingly good. The students in the elite class seemed to have tacitly agreed that Tangua would be embarrassed when the midterm exams were assigned to different classes. Tangua, the person who had been taken away, would be exposed during the exams. Time passed quickly and the midterm exams came quickly. www.
Come.
Calm because this school was one of the top high schools in the city, and because the midterm exams were about to be reassigned to different classes, those who didn't rank high enough could go to a class that was one level lower. Therefore, the midterm exams were especially strict, especially for the elite class that Tangwa was in. There were 3 invigilators in one exam hall, and they would even turn on the surveillance cameras. The degree of strictness was simply insane. However, no one had any objections. The stricter it was, the fairer it was for the capable students. As long as they were caught cheating once, no matter how many points they scored, they could only be assigned to the worst class. Although that class was the worst, it was still much better than the average high school results. The elite class that Tangwa was in was divided into 2 exam halls. Shangjin and the other 2 were in the first exam hall. Based on Tangwa's ranking, she was in the second exam hall. The people in the first exam hall realized that Tangwa always handed in her paper early and waited outside their exam hall for Shangjin and the other 2. They were secretly laughing in their hearts, thinking that Tangwa, who handed in her paper so early, would most likely be eliminated. Based on Tangwa's grades, not only was she last in her class, but she was also at the bottom of the grade. Tangwa stood outside quietly. The invigilator didn't bother her. Soon, Shangjin and the other 2 walked out of the classroom one after another. When the students who were still in the middle of their exams heard that the 4 of them had agreed to buy ice cream to eat, their hearts were about to explode. The midterm exam ended very quickly. Everyone was looking forward to Tangwa being eliminated and not sitting in this classroom anymore. The class teacher walked into the classroom with a smile on his face. He was very satisfied when he found that the class was very quiet. Most of the students were very nervous. What they were most concerned about was Tangwa's results. Under such strict invigilation, Tangwa had no chance to cheat. Moreover, she and Shangjin were not in the same examination hall. Not to mention passing her the answers, it was already good enough that they did not keep an eye on her to prevent her from doing anything. She even handed in her paper in advance. She definitely didn't do well in the exam. Even when Mo was worried that Tangwa's grades this time might not be enough to teach in this class. On the other hand, Tangwa was very relaxed, and Shangjin was not worried anymore. Tang Ran didn't seem to be worried either, which made Mo feel very strange. He couldn't help but ask Tang Ran in a low voice what was going on. Wasn't she worried? I think there shouldn't be any problems with my sister. This was Tang Ran's intuition. Just like when she was in junior high school, her sister's grades were originally at the bottom of the class. After the first exam, she returned to the middle position, so she was not worried. She wanted to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2166. The results that everyone had been looking forward to finally came down. Almost 90% of them weren't concerned about their own results. Instead, they glanced at the bottom of the list, wanting to find the name Tangwa. But the last place wasn't Tangwa. They hesitated for a moment, thinking that perhaps someone had performed abnormally, which allowed Tangwa's luck to be good, allowing her to move forward a little. Thus, they continued to scan the list. After scanning 5 or 6 times, they still couldn't find Tangwa. They widened their eyes in disbelief. Could it be that so many people had performed abnormally this time? But some people had already found their ranking at the back. It was about the same as their estimated score, and had even improved a little. It seemed like they hadn't performed abnormally. Unwilling to give up, they continued to search ahead. Finally, at the 20th place, they found Tangwa's name. They stared at the name and almost gritted their teeth. It couldn't be. She was absent-minded in class, never did her questions after class, and only ate snacks when she was free. How could she be in the top 20? This must be a joke. Perhaps the teacher had marked the papers wrongly. When Mo looked at Tangwa's ranking and was also in disbelief, he couldn't help but say to Tang Ran, "Did your sister really not hide her abilities? My sister has always been very smart. She's not ordinary at all. She's just a little afraid of exams." But many people don't believe it. I don't know why, but she always stays in the top 20 for every exam. No matter what, she won't improve or regress. Mo was a little speechless. She really wasn't an ordinary person. On the contrary, many people had worked hard and sweated to achieve their results. Tangwa ate snacks after class and wasn't serious in class. Tang Ran helped her write her homework and test papers. Then it was already very good for her to be able to get such results. Some people were already questioning Tangwa's results, wondering if there was a problem. Because of the strictness of the invigilators, they didn't suspect that Tangwa hadn't cheated. The students who were in the same exam room as Tangwa could all testify that there was no chance for her to cheat. They even said that one of the invigilators was sitting right next to Tangwa. Forget about cheating. Even the slightest movement of her lifting her head would not escape the eyes of the invigilator. Therefore, their suspicion was whether there were any mistakes in the marking of the exam papers. The homeroom teacher knew everyone's doubts and said with a smile, "I've already scanned all the exam papers in the class and sent them to the group. If you have any questions, you can download the test paper and watch it." As for the students' original exam papers, they would seal them up. When the time came, he would use the scanned version of the questions on his phone. Most people looked at Tangwa's test paper first. Only after looking at it did they realize that her test paper was quite neat. Every question was answered neatly, and the steps were concise. One could understand it at a glance. They quickly calculated the scores and found that there were no mistakes in the papers. Based on Tangwa's seat in the examination hall, no one in her examination hall had a better result than her, so it was impossible for her to cheat. Net computer. www. They had to admit that Tangwa had improved a lot. Net mobile phone terminal /. At the same time, they were so jealous that they gritted their teeth. She didn't do questions after class and ate more snacks than them every day. Was she really taught to lie down? If she really worked hard, would she be like Shangjin and Tang Ran and get full marks for them? How infuriating! I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2167. Soon, everyone accepted Tangwa's results. At the same time, when the rankings were released, the students who had been eliminated from this class had to pack their bags and go to the next class. The students who had been selected from the other classes would go to their class. This kind of situation would happen once every half a semester. The intense competition made it so that no one in the class dared to relax at all. Once they relaxed, they might go to a class that was not as good. It could be said that this was a good way to promote their studies. Of course, this was excluding Tangwa. When the final exam results were released again, Tangwa was still in the top 20. After the previous tests, everyone was used to it. They had already accepted Tangwa in their hearts, although they were a little jealous. But they were afraid that their results would be surpassed by others, so they worked hard every day to do questions and study. They didn't have time to be jealous. Tangwa lived happily in the 3 years of high school and had almost nothing to worry about. Of course, when it was late at night, it was still time for her to make a move. When Tang Ran was asleep, she never knew that Tangwa would disappear from her bed and go to another place in the world. She still had a sweet smile on her face, just like when she was happily eating snacks. But she would hold a cold knife in her hand. When she raised the knife, there would always be a heart-wrenching scream. At this time, she would gently pass by the person and whisper in his ear, "I like the way you scream too." The injured person would stare at her in horror and ask her who she was. Because they couldn't see where she was at all. They couldn't even see what had hurt him. Tangwa didn't say much. Instead, she put the video of the person's crime where it was. At the same time, she called the police and then the ambulance. Then, she used the teleportation talisman to return to the bed instantly. At that time, Tang Ran was still asleep. Sometimes, she would wait at the scene and watch the person being carried onto a stretcher with a pale face from the pain. She would plead with the police to give him justice. Xi and the police were already in a lot of trouble. They knew where he was injured and went to look for things at the scene with cold expressions. Sure enough, they found a computer that was turned on. The video file on the desktop made their hearts tremble. They only opened it and took a look. Then they closed it and made a copy. At the same time, they took the computer back. The man who was waiting for the police to help him redress his grievances did not know that he was facing a small square house that he could not get out of. Most of the time, several such incidents would happen at the same time in different parts of the country. This led people to conclude that the mysterious person was not a single person but a mysterious organization. They didn't have any other hobbies, and the people they dealt with were all heinous and infuriating beasts. Although this mysterious organization was judged to be a dangerous organization, almost everyone who knew about it couldn't bring themselves to hate it. Dad, it's so late today. Did something happen again? Late at night, when Mo found that the lights in the living room were on, it turned out that Hung had returned and was eating instant noodles. There's a case. Hung ate 2 mouthfuls and said slowly, "It's that mysterious organization that made a move again tonight. I want to chat with more like-minded people about." Chapter 2168. We received a notice that between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, a total of 5 such cases occurred. So many? When Mo was a little surprised. Did they happen in different places? The locations were all very far away. I suspect that this organization has a plan. They first learned about what these people did, and then acted together. Hung took another bite of instant noodles and said, "I don't know how many people there are in this organization. Based on the current situation, I'm afraid there are quite a few of them." Ma also thought so, but these things had nothing to do with him anymore. Now he was just a high school student. The things that those bastards had done were also infuriating in his eyes. Now that they had received their retribution, as a person who abhorred evil, he should feel happy inside. Those people should have been punished. When they laid their hands on those innocent girls, they should have known that there would be a day of retribution. Even if they could not be punished by normal means, such a mysterious organization would appear and make them suffer a fate worse than death. They would receive their true retribution. Dad, did you find any clues about their existence? When Mo was still a little nervous. With his current role, he naturally did not want such an organization to be discovered and captured. Hung shook his head and smiled.
No.
If they were discovered by me so easily, would I still be here eating instant noodles? If I could, I'd really like to keep eating instant noodles, Hung whispered. The premise is that they don't do anything beyond this and hurt innocent people. In Mo's heart, his father should be a fair and impartial person. Now, he realized that his father was actually an ordinary person and had the same thoughts as ordinary people. They're so powerful. It's been almost 10 years now, Mo said. Maybe they just want to make the world cleaner. Maybe. Hung asked a few more questions about Mo's studies. When he learned that his son had always been in the top 3, he could not help but smile. Not bad. Keep it up. When Mo sighed in his heart. With Ran around, he had to keep it up even if he wanted to. He really did not want to fall too far behind. It was fine if he surpassed her, but with his IQ, there was no way he could surpass her. That little pervert Ran was the same as Shang-Jin. They were both not human. Time passed quickly in high school. Tanghua's classmates felt the deep malice from Tanghua in the past 3 years. While they were studying hard, she was discussing what to have for lunch. They were working hard on the questions during the break, while she was eating snacks. They used the physical education class to memorize vocabulary while she was playing badminton at Shang-Jin University. She even smiled happily. Net computer. www.
Come.
Come in order to study. They worked very hard every day. Their sleep was reduced by 2 hours. They were thin and haggard. What about her? Her skin was delicate, and her face was fair. She seemed to be in high spirits. Although she wasn't fat and the baby fat had faded from her cheeks, it was obvious that she had been raised very well. Especially in the afternoon, the classroom was filled with the sound of pen and paper. She was the only one who wore earplugs and watched a movie. As for Shang-Jin, she still attended piano performances from time to time. As for Tang Ran and Mo, they would also participate in some computer competitions. In short, they had worked very hard in this high school. Finally, they made it to the college entrance examination. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2169. What was worth mentioning was that history repeated itself even before the college entrance examination. Because Shang-Jin and the other two were really too outstanding, they came to look for them in advance, and even said that they would be exempted from the exam and could directly study in the school. They had already heard that they would study in whichever school Tanggua chose in the future. One Tanggua could exchange for 3 talents and a school building for them. They were really willing. They did not dare to disturb the 3 of them who were studying seriously, so when they were free, they met up with Tanggua and sent her a bunch of information about their school. They asked her to choose a school to study in, and also gave her good treatment. At that time, the other students in the class were speechless. Her grades had always been average, so why did people from famous schools come to look for her and even let her choose any school? This was the biggest joke of the year. In the end, Shang-Jin and the others still took the college entrance examination and entered the university with excellent results. The university was indeed chosen by Tanggua, but she did not choose it randomly. She chose it based on their actual situation. She, the winner who did not do anything, became a legend. Whether it was the junior high school or the senior high school she studied in, she left her legend behind. Many years later, when the teacher chatted with the students in the class, the number of times he mentioned Tanggua was much more than when he mentioned Shang-Jin and the other 2. Every time he mentioned her, the teacher would sigh and say, "This is the first winner I've met in my life." From junior high to university, the schools she studied in were better than the ones before. She is also a legend. She can always maintain the average grade in the class. She won't stand out, and she won't drag the class down. The students would look envious, secretly wondering why they did not have that kind of luck. There were even places in the school where Tanggua's test papers were posted. At this time, the teacher would say, "Without Tanggua's victory, you can only study hard." Although she is a winner who did nothing, her grades are not too bad. At least she can always maintain a certain level and not fall behind. This is also a kind of talent. Winning without doing anything also requires strength. Tanggua had never thought that the ordinary life she hoped for would be so extraordinary. Her reputation was even greater than Shang-Jin and the other 2. When it came to people who won without doing anything, they would think of her, Shang-Jin, and the other 2's names, but it took them a long time to remember. The system was also a little helpless. Who asked its host to be so outstanding? Now, there were a few professors sitting in front of Tanggua. Why were they looking for her? They wanted to know which school she wanted to go to for her postgraduate studies. That's right, Shang-Jin and the other 2 would be guaranteed admission again. The principal of this school said that he was under a lot of pressure. The other schools wanted to snatch him away, and he would not let them succeed. After those people left, the principal smiled and told Tanggua about the many benefits of the school. Actually, when you move to a new place, you have to adapt to a new environment. Student Tanggua, when you chose our school, it shows that you also like our school, right? Tanggua had never thought of changing schools. It was quite good to study in this school as a graduate student. Anyway, she would win without doing anything. In the end, the principal was very satisfied and let her go. When Tanggua became a postgraduate student, her junior high school and senior high school were all aware of it. The teachers who had taught her all silently pushed up their glasses and sighed. She is indeed a winner who won without doing anything. Tomorrow, they would have to tell the students that if they did not work hard, they would not be able to compete with a winner who won without doing anything. Chapter 2170. When Tang Ran was in university, she majored in both computer science and chemistry. Even in university, she was still as outstanding as before. Many people thought that she would choose one of them when she became a graduate student, but she still chose to study both at the same time. Both the school and the mentors were very tolerant of highly talented students like her. Compared to Tanggua, who ate snacks from primary school until she became a graduate student, Tang Ran started winning prizes in chemistry competitions in high school. She participated in various experiments in university and developed some software in computer science. The number of awards he had won was already innumerable. When she became a graduate student, she spent almost every day in the laboratory. When Mo said that he was more ordinary and wasn't as perverted as Tang Ran, being able to take care of both, he could only concentrate on learning about computers. Although Tang Ran was so busy that they met less often, when Mo didn't complain at all. Anyone from his point of view would probably want to see Tang Ran shining in her field, right? Her intelligence and wisdom were no longer used to wander in the dark. Instead, they were used to let everyone know and see her intelligence openly. When Mo graduated as a graduate student, he didn't continue studying. To him, there wasn't much meaning in continuing to study. He had already mastered what he needed to master. What he needed to do now was to use what he learned.
Com.
He started his own technology company. Although he was busy in the early stages after he started the company became profitable and recruited more talents. He wasn't so busy anymore and could find time to meet Tang Ran. It was worth mentioning that Tang Ran also joined the company. Some of the product development had her shadow in it. Just when Mo and Tang Ran's reputation alone would attract countless people to invest. As long as they didn't court death, this company would definitely be able to survive. After Tang Ran graduated as a graduate student, she chose to continue her PhD. Her main focus was on chemistry and pharmaceuticals. It could be said that she had embarked on her old path. However, this path was very bright, and she could display her talents. Every drug that was researched was a new discovery and progress, making a huge contribution to the development of mankind. It had only been 2 years since Tang Ran joined the team's laboratory, but now, she was surrounded by bodyguards wherever she went. It was clear how important she was now. When Mo had been watching her go further and further. Her future was bright. Many times, when he saw her short messages, he could even smile. On the other hand, Tang Hua and Shang Jin graduated as postgraduate students. Shang Jin did not choose to pursue her career. Instead, she became a pianist. He liked to perform, but he was still a man of few words. One could only hear him speak a few times a year. However, he liked to sit on the stage and perform. No, it should be said that what he liked the most was that when he played, he could always feel the most attentive gaze from below the stage falling on him. The moment he looked forward to the most was when the performance ended and the owner of that gaze would come on stage and hand him a red rose. He would pick up the small vase on the side and put the brightest red rose in it. Every time this happened, the outside world would be very noisy, but this was the time he hated the most. I want to chat with more like-minded people about crossover, female supporting character, calm down. Talking about life, looking for a confidant, vertex. Chapter 2171. After another performance, Shang Jin saluted and looked in the direction of Tang Hua. Tang Hua got up from her seat and rushed up with a rose in her hand. The corners of Shang Jin's mouth curled up. She hurriedly walked over and pulled Tang Hua up from the stage. "You still sound as good as ever." Tang Hua praised him generously and handed the rose to him. "This is your reward." Shang Jin held the rose tightly and put it into the vase. At this moment, the people around them were joking and making noise. This was not the atmosphere of a piano performance, but Shang Jin was an exception. He was such a quiet person, but he was always in the middle of a commotion. They had all heard that the girl beside Shang Jin seemed to have grown up with him. There was another time when Shang Jin was interviewed. He was asked how he could create such beautiful and healing songs that made people feel good. That was a rare time Shang Jin spoke. "Because there's a very sweet person beside me." Because there was a very sweet person by her side. The songs he created were all good for her mood and could heal her when she listened to them.
Come.
As long as this person stayed by his side, he would never be able to create sad songs. Almost every song he created was inspired by her. Although he did not say this, he guessed that she should know. After all, she was so smart. She was not ordinary at all. The two of them walked out side by side. It was basically Tanguy talking. Even though Shang-Jin rarely spoke, when she spoke, his eyes seemed to be glued to her. Tanguy had already moved out of her original home. Her current home was still next to Shang-Jin's. It was a small villa. She didn't earn the money to buy this villa herself. Tang Ran bought it for her with the bonus she received. Tanguy finally expressed her gratification. After working hard to raise her sister, she could finally enjoy life. Her school, classmates, and teachers still had an indescribable expression when they mentioned Tanguy. They had never heard of a graduate student who did not look for a job and followed Shang-Jin around every day. www.
Com,
however, he didn't work and could still live in a villa. Many of his classmates were still worried about their mortgage and car loans. He was already at the peak of his life and didn't have to worry about anything. After all, he had a genius younger sister who had made countless achievements in the chemistry industry. He couldn't even be jealous. Many people admired people like Tang Ran, but what they really envied was people like Tanguy, who was a winner without doing anything. He didn't have to do anything. He just had to raise his sister. Tanguy and Shang-Jin went home. Seeing that she wanted to go back first, he handed her bag to her and said briefly, "Come down for dinner later." "All right, I'll be right there." Tanguy took her bag and rushed to the villa. Unexpectedly, just as he reached the door, he saw a woman standing there. The woman looked to be in her 50s, but she still maintained her figure well. However, there were also many wrinkles on her face. Especially with a thick layer of powder, those wrinkles were filled with powder. She looked tacky and awkward. She even wore bright lipstick. No matter how one looked at it, there was no beauty. When she saw Tanguy appear, the woman's eyes lit up. She quickly ran in front of Tanguy. "Xiaoguo, you must be Xiaoguo." She wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down. Talking about life, looking for confidence, peak. Chapter 2172. Xiaoguo, I'm your mother. I'm your mother. Do you still remember me? When your father and I divorced, you and Xiao Ran were still so tall. In the blink of an eye, you've grown up. The woman seemed very emotional. She gestured in front of Tanguy as she spoke. She looked like a mother who really loved her daughter and was moved to tears when she finally saw her daughter. Tanguy didn't have any expression on her face. She just glanced at Li Keshu and knew that she wasn't living well. She could tell from the poor quality of the cosmetics on her face and the way she was dressed. Although she tried her best to make herself look better, there was no way to hide the fact that a person was living a bad life. "Why are you looking for me?" "Xiaoguo, are you angry that your father and I divorced?" "I actually wanted to take you and Xiao Ran away, but you also know that I'm a woman. If I really take you away, it'll be a problem whether I can raise you. At least you won't have to worry about food and clothes if you stay by your father's side. Otherwise, you wouldn't be where you are today, right? If I had a choice, I would also want to keep you by my side. Which mother in the world wouldn't want to be by her daughter's side? Tell me, what's the matter?" Tanguy didn't want to talk nonsense with her. If Li Keshu hadn't come, she would have almost forgotten about her. Li Keshu had a part to play in the death of the original body. Since the other party was here, it was time to settle the score. "Let's talk inside." "How about that?" Li Keshu's eyes were a little unhappy. But in the current situation, she didn't want to fall out with Tanguy. No matter what, this was her daughter. She heard that this house was bought by Xiao Ran and had nothing to do with her elder daughter. It was said that her elder daughter was able to go to the best school since she was young and was even recommended to graduate school in the end. It was all thanks to her younger daughter. If she had known that her younger daughter was so smart, she would have taken her away no matter what. If she took good care of her, the small villa and car her younger daughter bought would be hers. With her younger daughter's current achievements, She would have endless money in this lifetime. Would she still need to please men? The more she thought about it, the more unwilling Li Kesha felt. Fortunately, their relationship was still there. Li Kesha was Tang Ran's mother, so it was impossible for Tang Ran to ignore her. Tang Hua called Shang Jin first. I have something to do. Don't come over. I'll come to you when I'm done. Hearing Tang Hua's voice, Shang Jin, who was about to come over, stopped. He turned around and went up to the rooftop. His gaze was fixed on the location of Tang Hua's villa. He wouldn't feel at ease if he didn't keep watch. He didn't know what was going on over there. Tang Hua did not let Li Kesha in. Instead, she asked, I have something important to do later. If you have anything to say, just say it. For so many years, Li Kesha had never shown her face. Her table manners were truly unsightly. Even if she was here to see her daughters, she shouldn't be empty-handed. She was clearly treating her two daughters as cash machines. There was no mother-daughter relationship between them.
Come.
Calmly, Kesha's face didn't look good, but at this time, she also understood Tang Hua's meaning. She was clearly going to use money to get rid of her. This was good too. After all, this was her daughter. If she took her daughter this time, she could come and ask for more next time. It didn't matter whether she went in or not. Although she felt a little regretful that she couldn't go in and sit on the high-end sofa and see what the big house was like, it was fine as long as she got the money. She wanted to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down. Chat about life. Find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2173. I've been having some financial difficulties recently. Originally, I started a small company and planned to expand it so that I could take care of you and your sister in the future. But I'm really not cut out for that. The small company is barely operating. If the capital chain is broken this time, the company might not be able to continue operating. So, I'm here to ask you to lend me some money for the company. Tang Hua suddenly understood. I see. How much do you need? Li Kesha didn't have any company. She was just here to cheat money. It was true that Li Kesha was in debt. She owed money from all kinds of formal lending platforms. Basically, she was robbing Peter to pay Paul every month. This was what the system had told her just now. When Li Kesha came, the system had investigated her information. 500,000. Li Kesha tentatively said a number. Basically, 500,000 is enough. I also want to solve it as soon as possible. When the company's crisis is resolved, the three of us can take some time to have a meal. 500,000. Tang Hua's voice dragged out. Seeing Li Kesha's nervous expression, she said, then I'll think of a way. Where do you live? I'll bring you 500,000 when I have enough.
Come.
Calmly, Kesha was overjoyed. At the same time, she felt a little regretful that she didn't ask for enough. Tang Hua agreed so easily. She must have money on hand. That's right. Her younger daughter was so powerful. How could she not have money? She heard that most of the money that her younger daughter earned was handed over to her elder daughter. Since the other party said that she wanted to gather the money, she probably wanted to discuss it with her younger daughter. Although it was a little less, it didn't matter. They were mother and daughter. There was plenty of time in the future. She couldn't ask for too much at once, in case the other party was unwilling. If she asked for a little less every time, she could ask for more. Li Kesha excitedly told Tang Hua where she lived. The two also exchanged phone numbers. Then, with a smile on her face, Li Kesha said a few nice words and said that she would wait for her news. She even said that the company's problem was solved and that she must ask Tang Ran to have a meal together. Tang Hua looked at Li Kesha's back lightly. She didn't open the door until the other party's figure disappeared. Internet mobile phone terminal /m. She first went to her room and took out two safes from the closet. When she opened them, she saw that they were filled with cash. She smiled at the two safes. I've already prepared them. I hope she has a chance to spend the 500,000 yuan. The system hid in a corner and trembled. That's right, How could the great host forget Li Keshu, the person who had led the original owner to a dead end? If it wasn't for Li Keshu, even if the original's body couldn't figure it out, she would still be able to live. Maybe she could see Tang Rant's intelligence and understand. Who could predict what the real outcome would be before it happened? Tang would put the safe into the system space, then change her clothes, and went to Shang Jin's house next door. What he was asking was what had just happened. Seeing that Shang Jin was worried, Tangwa patted his head. "Don't worry." Her hand followed his hair to his cheek. Sure enough, it felt as good as before. She won't come again. Shang Jin didn't believe her. He had asked someone to investigate Li Keshu and had some understanding of her. I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2174. But since Tangwa said that there was no problem, Shang Jin acted as if there was no problem. If Li Keshu really shamelessly came over, he would not sit back and do nothing. Why are you thinking so much? Aren't we going to look at the stars tonight? Shang Jin's eyes lit up. He enjoyed being with her the most, especially on summer nights when they went to the roof to look at the stars. She said that she liked to look at the stars while listening to him play the piano. Actually, he also liked to look at her while playing the piano. As for the stars, even if they were bright enough to illuminate the entire night, he was not interested. In his heart, she was his star, the only one, so naturally it was the brightest. In the next few days, Shang Jin did not perform. Every day passed peacefully and warmly. When Mo also knew that the two of them were living happily. Sometimes he was quite envious, but he also liked his current life. When he was busy, he could go and see the most dazzling person. Seeing that she was becoming more and more outstanding, he felt sincerely happy. Perhaps in this life, they would be in a relationship later because she was too busy, but he was willing to wait for her and accompany her. Tangwa accompanied Shang Jin to look at the stars every night until it rained heavily one night, and the two of them returned to the house early. After returning to the room, Tangwa did not rest. Instead, he put on the invisibility cloak, took out the teleportation talisman, and instantly moved to Li Keshu's house. Li Keshu's house was rented. With her extravagant spending, although she had earned some money over the years, she did not have any savings at all. She had gritted her teeth and rented this house because she wanted to save face. This house belonged to a high-end neighborhood, so it was very good. A few years ago, when she was still young, she could still hook up with many men. Although she was not rich, she did not lack money. Since she was over 40 years old, she was old. Those men were not willing to look at her at all, and they went to find younger men, which made her gnash her teeth in hatred. Li Keshu came out of the bathroom and suddenly saw someone sitting on the sofa in the living room. She was shocked. When she walked over to take a look, she realized that the person was Tangwa. "Xiaogua, it's so late and it's raining. Why are you here?" Li Keshu suddenly reacted. "How did you get in?" "You forgot to lock the door." Tangwa casually found an excuse. Li Keshu tried to recall whether she had locked the door or not, but she believed what Tangwa said. She probably didn't close the door when she closed it. "WWW.
Come.
Have you gathered enough money?" Li Keshu asked impatiently. Tangwa smiled and nodded. "Yes, but you have to come with me to get it. It's all cash." Li Keshu's eyes lit up. Cash, that would be even better. She hurriedly went back to her room to change her clothes. She didn't even dry her hair, which showed how anxious she was. When she came to the living room and saw Tangwa, she said, "Let's go now." Remembering that it was raining, she turned back to get an umbrella. "Drink a glass of water first." Tangwa handed Li Keshu a glass of water. Li Keshu didn't suspect anything and drank it directly. When she put the glass down, she suddenly realized that Tangwa hadn't changed her shoes. She subconsciously looked at the door to the living room and felt that something was wrong. Internet computer. WWW. Como right, it's raining outside. Tangwa didn't change her shoes. Why aren't her shoes wet? Li Kashu was just thinking about this when she felt dizzy and fell onto the sofa. Tangwa glanced at her, grabbed Li Kashu's collar, and used the teleportation talisman. In the darkness, she used the teleportation talisman several times. The sky went from dark to bright in less than a minute. This was because she came to the other side of the world. She put Li Kashu down on an island and sat at the side, taking out a bag of chips to eat while waiting for her to wake up. I want to chat with more like-minded people about. Chapter 2175. After an unknown amount of time, Li Kashu slowly woke up. When she opened her eyes, she saw the blue sky and white clouds. The smell of seawater and grass wafted past the tip of her nose. She stared blankly at the white clouds floating in the sky. For a moment, she did not react to the current situation. For a moment, she thought that she was dreaming. After about 3 minutes, Li Kashu suddenly turned over from the ground. At a glance, she saw Tangwa sitting beside her eating chips and drinking Coke. She looked at the bags of snacks on the smooth stone floor. Then, she looked around at the forest, the shrubs, and the endless sea not far away. Li Kashu muttered to herself, "This must be a dream. Otherwise, how could it be daytime in the next moment when it was night before?" Tangwa looked at her with a smile. She did not intend to remind her and continued to eat. The sound of chewing could be heard softly by Li Kashu's ears. After a few more minutes, she suddenly pinched her thigh, and the pain made her hiss. She widened her eyes. It was not a dream? This is not a dream. It is indeed not a dream. The food was not finished, and Tangwa did not intend to put it away. Instead, she answered Li Kashu's question. Li Kashu stared at Tangwa with an unpleasant expression. Where is this? Why was she here? How did she come here? What did the other party do while she was asleep? Li Kashu subconsciously touched her body. She realized that other than the set of clothes that was still intact, her bag, wallet, and other things were missing, not to mention her phone. She looked around. In front of her was the sea, and behind her was the wilderness. She could not find her personal belongings at all. I don't know where this is either. Tangwa was telling the truth. She really did not know where this was. She had only asked the system to help her scan. This was a very remote island without any traces of human habitation. Even if people were to explore outside, they would not be able to reach this place. This was because in the sea outside, some places were very dangerous. There was fog all year round, and there were all kinds of reefs at the bottom of the sea. It could be said to be a no-man's land. Even adventurers who were not afraid of death would not dare to come to this place. She had carefully selected this island. No one had lived on this island before, and there weren't any large, ferocious animals. Adults could still live on this island. The quality of life might not be guaranteed, but their lives were not in danger. None of the animals, plants, or insects on the island could kill humans. In short, humans could survive here. www. Calmly, Kashu did not know what Tangwa was thinking, so she asked, "Why did you bring me here?" Computer. www. Didn't you say that we haven't seen each other for so many years? So, I found this opportunity to get together. Ran was very busy, so she didn't have time to come. When Li Kashu was about to say something, Tangwa handed 2 safety deposit boxes to her. "These are the 500,000 you asked for."
Count them.
Hearing 500,000 yuan, Li Kashu was so excited that she didn't think about anything else. She quickly opened the safe and almost screamed when she saw the box full of cash. 500,000 yuan was not a lot, but to suddenly have 500,000 yuan in cash in front of her, and it belonged to her, how could she not be excited? Li Kashu was so excited that she forgot about her own situation. She wanted to talk about transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down with more like-minded people. Talk about life. Find a confidant, peak. Chapter 2176. Although she was very excited, Li Kashu was still afraid that it was a trap. She even took out the money to take a look. After confirming that it was all money, she could no longer suppress her emotions. She put the money back into the box and quickly closed it. She changed the password and put it beside her. With this 500,000 yuan, Mom's company can be saved. Li Keshu, who had received 500,000 yuan, did not realize where they were. Perhaps she was too excited, so her brain did not have time to think about the details of her surroundings. For example, she was still wondering why it was dawn. Now, she was only thinking about how to get along well with Tanggua. She planned to prepare for the next time she asked for money. Xiaogua, you're right. It's rare for us to get along so well. We haven't seen each other for more than 20 years. Tanggua was not in a hurry to tell Li Keshu the truth of the situation here. She believed that Li Keshu would understand on her own. Before she understood, she planned to teach Li Keshu a lesson on how to survive on a deserted island. I also want to get along well with you. Why don't we have a barbecue in the wild today? Li Keshu did not suspect anything else and nodded. Okay, I'll let you see Mom's cooking today. Li Keshu subconsciously thought that Tanggua wanted to give her a surprise. Even if the other party appeared cold, they were mother and daughter after all. How could a child who longed for a mother's love reject her mother's sudden appearance? In Tanggua's heart, she also longed for her mother to return to her side. www.
Calm.
Calm, therefore, Li Keshu guessed that Tanggua had secretly brought her here to get along with her alone. Li Keshu looked around for barbecue and barbecue grills, but she could not find them after searching several times. She looked at the seaside and wanted to see if there was a luxurious cruise ship. Of course, there was none. She was a little unwilling to give up. She thought that the cruise ship might have temporarily gone somewhere she could not see. But there was no meat or barbecue grills here. How were they going to barbecue in the wild? Xiaogua, where are we going to barbecue? Where are the vegetables and grills? At this time, Li Keshu still thought that Tanggua might have put these things somewhere else. Tanggua brushed her hair behind her ear and took out a small knife from her pocket. It looked like a fruit knife. She shook her head and said, "Since we're already here, it doesn't make sense to buy ready-made things. It's better to use local materials and natural things." Li Keshu's eyes widened. What did that mean? I see that there are a lot of wild vegetables here. There must be small animals in the forest. I don't know what kind of edible fish there are by the sea. These are all our food. As for the barbecue tools, there are many smooth stone slabs here. Some are thin, some are thick. If you don't like stone slabs, you can also use wood to make a barbecue rack. It's the same. Li Keshu understood. Net computer. www. She grumbled in her heart, but she also watched a lot of outdoor survival programs. Perhaps her eldest daughter just wanted to experience this kind of life. If their relationship could improve a little, it would be easier for her to get money in the future. A little hard work today was nothing. Then I'll go pick some wild vegetables first. Okay. Tanggua agreed. Let's do it together. Li Keshu heaved a sigh of relief. Then, the two of them really began to slowly pick the wild vegetables and some fruits. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down, talking about life, looking for confidence, peak. Chapter 2177. After picking the wild vegetables and fruits, Li Keshu hesitated for a moment. How do we catch small animals? And how do we catch fish? I'll make a fork to catch fish. This time, Li Keshu was the one watching. She watched as Tanggua used the knife to cut a small wooden branch and sharpen the tip. The tip was in the shape of a fork. Then the two of them went to the beach to catch fish. After grabbing for a while, Tanggua finally forked two fish. www. Calmly, Keshu heaved a sigh of relief. She kept complaining in her heart. She could have rented a cruise ship, but why couldn't she just barbecue meat on the cruise ship? Why did she have to suffer here and experience primitive life? She got dirty all over. Of course, Li Keshu looked kind on the surface. When she saw Tanggua forking the fish, She happily praised Tangua for being amazing, as expected of her daughter. Tangua smiled without saying a word and put the fish back. I saw crabs and prawns in the puddles just now. Likeshu gritted her teeth. Then let's go catch them. We have to make some ropes with grass. Otherwise, we won't have a place to put them. Likeshu thought about it. That was really the case. At this time, there was no time to make any containers. For the time being, they couldn't find any materials to make baskets. Making ropes with grass and tying up the crabs and prawns was indeed a way. Xian, Likeshu muttered in her heart. She didn't know where this brat got such a wicked idea. She thought that Tangua didn't enjoy the childhood life with her mother. Now, she wanted to experience it. She heard that some people who had money would reminisce about the past to make up for the past. When she was making the rope, Likeshu's fingers were cut a few times by the grass. Tangua said with concern, I know some herbs to stop bleeding. I'll get some for you. After a while, Tangua found some herbs to stop bleeding and handed it to Likeshu. Chew it yourself and apply it to the wound. Likeshu was unwilling to use such a simple method. But thinking of the relationship between the two of them, she took it with a smile and even said against her will that Tangua was very sensible. Tangua looked at her with a pair of sparkling eyes. Likeshu put the herbs into her mouth and chewed. The bitter taste almost made her retch. Finally, he applied it to his finger. There was indeed a cooling sensation, and there was no more bleeding. The system's heart trembled as it looked at these, if it really had a heart. Dear host, this is bad. Given the current situation, when no one knew the truth, who knew what she was thinking? This woman is so evil. He could already imagine how desperate Likeshu would be when the time came. After the rope was made, the two of them went to the puddles to look for crabs and prawns. He looked at Likeshu's hand and said, You have a wound on your hand.
Just watch me do it now.
It's the same.
All right.
Likeshu agreed. Right now, she really didn't want to bend down and dig for things in the mud. It wasn't fun at all. Right now, she just wanted to get rid of Tangua as soon as possible and leave with the 500,000 yuan. But for the sake of the future, she had to endure all of this. Tangua's hands and feet were very nimble, and her eyes were very accurate. In a short while, she caught several crabs and 4 prawns. The crabs and prawns were tied up by the rope she made earlier, and they couldn't struggle on the ground. In the end, I think we need to get a pheasant or a rabbit. It would be better if there were wild mushrooms. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration. Female supporting character, calm down. Talking about life, looking for confidence, piqued you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for being a part of this adventure.